Welcome to our screencast on Topic 5.1, Introduction to Agriculture. Agriculture is one of the most fundamental aspects of human civilization. It shapes how societies grow, how populations are sustained, and how economies developed. In this screencast, we're going to dive into the foundations of agriculture, its origins, significance, and the key concepts geographers use to study it. We'll explore how agriculture emerged thousands of years ago, transforming human societies of hunter-gatherers into settled agriculturalists. We'll also consider the factors that influence where and how agriculture is practiced around the world today. From subsistence farming in rural communities to industrial-scale food production, agriculture impacts not only our environment, but also cultural, economic, and political systems. By the end of this screencast, you'll have a solid understanding of why agriculture is such a central topic in human geography and how it connects to broader themes like land use, resource distribution, and globalization. Get your notes ready and let's start uncovering the fascinating story of agriculture. Topic 5.1 highlights how the natural environment shapes where and how humans grow food and raise animals. Let's break this down by looking at the essential knowledge statements in your course description. First, agricultural practices are influenced by the physical environment and climate conditions. For example, specific climates support specific types of farming. A Mediterranean climate, which is characterized by hot, dry summers and mild, wet winters, is ideal for crops like grapes, olives, and citrus fruits. You'll find this climate type in regions like California, Southern Europe, and parts of Australia. On the other hand, tropical climates, with their warm temperatures and high rainfall, are well suited for crops like bananas, coffee, and sugarcane. These regions often support plantation agriculture, which we'll touch on in a moment. Now let's look at two main categories of agricultural practices: intensive farming and extensive farming. Intensive farming practices require a lot of labor or resources relative to the land area being farmed. Examples include market gardening, which focuses on growing fruits, vegetables, and flowers close to urban areas to sell locally; plantation agriculture, typically found in tropical regions where large-scale operations grow cash crops like tea or rubber; and mixed crop livestock systems, where farmers raise animals and grow crops on the same land, using the crops to feed the animals. In contrast, extensive farming practices require much more land, but less labor or input per unit of land. Examples include shifting cultivation, often practiced in tropical forests where farmers clear small plots for temporary use; nomadic herding, where people move with their animals to find grazing land, very common in arid and semi-arid regions; and ranching, which is typically done on large areas of land like cattle ranches in the western United States. Understanding these connections between physical geography and agricultural practices helps us see how the environment shapes human activity and how humans adapt their agricultural methods to fit their surroundings. As we go through these notes, keep asking yourself, how does the land influence the type of farming, and how do farmers adapt their methods to get the most out of their environment? So let's take a look at what factors impact the type of agriculture grown around the world. The type of agriculture practiced in any given region is deeply influenced by the physical environment, which includes factors like climate, landforms, and soil quality. These elements set the stage for what can or cannot be grown and how effectively farming can be sustained. First, climate plays a critical role in determining agricultural output. Climate dictates the amount of precipitation, temperature range, and growing seasons in a region. Agricultural activity is often aligned with bioclimatic zones, which are areas of the world defined by their climate and vegetation. For example, tropical climates with high rainfall and warm temperatures support crops like bananas and coffee, while arid climates with limited rainfall are better suited for drought-resistant crops like millet or barley. Regions with moderate precipitation and temperature climates, such as the Midwest in the United States, are ideal for crops like corn and wheat. Farmers must adapt their practices to the natural climate, or they may face challenges such as water scarcity or crop failure. Next, the space and landforms of a region also influence agricultural practices. The availability of arable land, which is land suitable for farming, is a significant factor. Flat plains and fertile valleys are often highly productive agricultural regions because they are easy to cultivate. In contrast, areas with rugged terrain, like mountain ranges, are less conducive to large-scale farming, but might support practices like terraced agriculture, where farmers cut steps into slopes to create flat planting surfaces. Similarly, deserts pose challenges due to a lack of water, although innovations like irrigation systems have allowed farming to occur in places like the American Southwest and parts of the Middle East. Finally, the soil quality and nutrients available in a region are essential for successful agriculture. Some soils are naturally rich in nutrients, like the black soils found in the Great Plains of the U.S., which support extensive crop production. However, in many parts of the world, soil fertility is a challenge. In such cases, farmers must find ways to supply nutrients artificially, often through fertilizers, crop rotation, or adding organic matter like compost. Without adequate nutrients, crop yields decline, leading to food insecurity in regions dependent on local production. Farmers worldwide must work within or adapt to these natural conditions to grow food and sustain their communities. Understanding these factors helps us see the vital connections between the environment and the types of agriculture practiced in different regions. Tropical and subtropical regions are characterized by high temperatures, abundant rainfall, and high levels of humidity. These climatic conditions create lush environments with dense vegetation, making them uniquely suited for certain types of agriculture. Two prominent farming practices in these regions are shifting cultivation and plantation agriculture. Shifting cultivation is a traditional farming method often practiced in tropical rainforests. In this system, farmers clear a small plot of land, usually through a slash and burn technique, and use it to grow crops for a few years until the soil's nutrients are depleted. Once the land becomes less fertile, farmers move to a new area and repeat the process, allowing the abandoned plot to regenerate naturally over time. This type of agriculture is well suited to the nutrient-poor soils commonly found in rainforests because the ash from the burned vegetation temporarily enriches the soil. However, shifting cultivation is labor-intensive and requires large tracts of land to accommodate the rotational system. Plantation agriculture, on the other hand, is large-scale, commercial farming, often found in tropical and subtropical regions. Plantations typically focus on growing cash crops like bananas, sugarcane, coffee, or rubber, which are exported to global markets. The high temperatures and abundant rainfall in these regions provide ideal growing conditions for these crops, allowing them to thrive year-round. Plantations are often owned by large corporations or foreign investors and rely heavily on labor. Historically, this included forced labor or poorly paid workers. While plantation agriculture contributes significantly to the global economy, it can also lead to environmental degradation, including deforestation and soil depletion, due to the monoculture farming practices commonly used. Drylands and desert regions, characterized by high temperatures, little rainfall, and sparse vegetation, present unique challenges for agriculture. However, human ingenuity has led to the development of specific agricultural practices that are well suited to these arid environments. Two prominent types of agriculture in these regions are pastoral nomadism and livestock ranching. Pastoral nomadism is a subsistence-based agricultural system in which people rely on the domestication and movement of animals to meet their needs. Nomadic herders, often found in regions like North Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia, move their livestock seasonally to find water and grazing land. This mobility is crucial in drylands where resources are scarce and unevenly distributed. Animals such as camels, goats, and sheep are commonly raised because they are well adapted to harsh environments. Pastoral nomadism not only provides food, milk, and wool, but also serves as a cultural and economic foundation for many societies living in these arid regions. However, this practice is increasingly under pressure from climate change, desertification, and government policies that restrict traditional migratory routes. Livestock ranching, on the other hand, is a commercial form of agriculture that focuses on raising animals like cattle, sheep, or goats over large tracts of land. This practice is common in regions such as the American West, parts of South America, and Australia, where the land is too dry or rugged for crop farming. Ranching operations often require significant land resources because animals need extensive grazing areas to sustain themselves. While ranching is highly productive in terms of meat and wool production, it can lead to environmental issues such as overgrazing, soil erosion, and habitat loss if not managed sustainably. Advances in irrigation and feed supplements have helped improve productivity in these regions, but they also come with additional environmental and economic costs. Temperate or mid-latitude regions are defined by moderate temperatures, moderate rainfall, and seasonal changes between warm summers and cooler winters. These conditions provide a balance that supports a diverse range of agricultural practices, making temperate regions some of the most productive areas in the world. Key agricultural systems in these areas include mixed crop livestock farming, commercial grain farming, market gardening, dairy farming, and Mediterranean agriculture. Mixed crop and livestock farming is a common practice in temperate regions, particularly in areas like the Midwest in the United States and parts of Europe. Farmers grow crops such as corn and soybeans, which are often used to feed livestock like cattle and pigs. This integrated approach provides farmers with multiple income sources and creates a sustainable system where livestock manure helps fertilize crops. The moderate rainfall in these regions supports the growth of both crops and pastures, making this practice highly efficient. Commercial grain farming is another hallmark of temperate regions, focusing on the large-scale production of crops like wheat, oats, and barley. This type of farming thrives in areas with relatively flat terrain and moderate rainfall, such as the Great Plains of the United States, Canadian prairies, and the steppes of Russia. Advances in mechanization and irrigation have allowed these regions to become global breadbaskets, producing significant quantities of grain for both domestic consumption and export. Market gardening, or commercial gardening, is concentrated near urban centers where farmers grow fruits, vegetables, and flowers to sell directly to local markets. This type of farming is labor-intensive and often relies on modern irrigation and greenhouse technology to maximize output. Regions like California's Central Valley and parts of Florida are well known for their market gardening due to their moderate climates and access to transportation networks. Dairy farming is a significant agricultural practice in temperate regions with cooler climates and reliable rainfall. Areas like Wisconsin in the United States, parts of New Zealand, and Northern Europe excel in dairy production thanks to the availability of lush pastures. Dairy farms produce milk, cheese, and other products for regional and global markets, but they require significant investment in livestock care and technology to remain profitable. Mediterranean agriculture is unique to areas with Mediterranean climates, such as Southern Europe, California, and parts of Australia. These regions experience hot, dry summers and mild, wet winters, creating ideal conditions for growing crops like olives, grapes, and citrus fruits and nuts. Mediterranean agriculture often combines the cultivation of high-value crops with livestock grazing, making it both diverse and economically important. The moderate climate and seasonal changes of temperate regions allow for a wide variety of agricultural practices, each adapted to local conditions and market demands. These practices highlight the versatility of temperate zones and their crucial role in global food production. Environmental possibilism emphasizes the idea that while the physical environment influences how human societies develop, humans are not entirely constrained by natural limitations. Through the use of technology and innovation, people can overcome environmental challenges and adapt their agricultural practices to diverse conditions. This concept helps explain how societies around the world have developed unique agricultural techniques tailored to their local environments. Climate plays a significant role in shaping agriculture, but human ingenuity has allowed farmers to adapt to even the most challenging climates. One example is the use of greenhouses, which create controlled environments for growing crops in regions where outdoor conditions may not be ideal, such as cold or arid areas. Greenhouses allow farmers to extend growing seasons and cultivate crops that would otherwise struggle in a specific climate. Space and landforms also present challenges, but they can be modified to suit agricultural needs. A well-known example is terrace farming, shown here, where hillsides are carved into step-like formations to create flat areas for planting. This technique, used in regions like Southeast Asia and the Andes, helps conserve water and reduce soil erosion. Similarly, clearing trees and vegetation to create arable land has long been a practice in areas where forests dominate, although this can have significant environmental impacts. Soil and nutrients are critical to agricultural success, and human innovations have addressed deficiencies in natural soil fertility as well. Fertilizers, whether organic or synthetic, are commonly used to enrich soil and boost crop yields. In regions with poor soil quality, slash-and-burn agriculture has been used to temporarily improve soil fertility by burning vegetation to release nutrients. However, this method is not sustainable long-term and can lead to deforestation and soil degradation. Water and precipitation are often limiting factors in agriculture, but technologies like irrigation have transformed arid and semi-arid regions into productive farmland. From ancient aqueducts to modern sprinkler systems, irrigation allows farmers to supply water to crops when rainfall is insufficient. Additionally, techniques like draining wetlands have created farmland in areas where water previously dominated, such as the Netherlands. While these methods increase agricultural output, they also have significant environmental consequences, including habitat destruction and water resource depletion. While environmental possibilism highlights the incredible capacity of humans to adapt to their environments, it also raises important questions about sustainability. Many of the modifications made to overcome natural limitations, such as extensive irrigation or deforestation, can have long-term negative effects on ecosystems and natural resources. Balancing human needs with environmental conservation is a critical challenge in modern agriculture. Another factor, the factors that impact the type of agriculture grown around the world, the physical environment is a huge one. But the type of agriculture practiced in a region is often shaped also by economic forces, including the cost of land, labor, and machinery. These factors determine whether farming is conducted intensively or extensively, each with distinct characteristics and examples. Intensive agriculture involves significant inputs of labor and/or capital on smaller plots of land, often in areas where land is scarce or expensive. This type of farming is typically located near regions with high population density, where the demand for fresh produce and other goods is substantial. Because of the limited land available, farmers in these areas focus on maximizing output per unit of land, often using advanced technology, irrigation, and fertilizers. Examples of intensive agricultural practices include market gardening, where fruits, vegetables, and flowers are grown on small farms close to urban markets; plantation agriculture, which relies on large labor investments and capital to grow cash crops like sugar, coffee, or bananas, often for export; mixed crop and livestock systems, where crops are grown to feed animals, and the animals in turn provide manure to fertilize the fields; and Mediterranean agriculture, characterized by the cultivation of olives, grapes, and citrus fruits in regions with mild, wet winters and hot, dry summers. On the other hand, extensive agriculture requires fewer inputs of labor and capital, but operates on a much larger plot of land. This type of farming is found in areas where land is plentiful and inexpensive, often far from major population centers. Extensive agriculture focuses on lower yields per unit of land, but the large scale of operations makes it economically viable. Examples of extensive agricultural practices include shifting cultivation, where farmers clear small patches of forest, grow crops for a few years, and then move to a new area to allow the soil to recover; livestock ranching, which involves raising large herds of cattle, sheep, or other animals on expansive grazing lands; nomadic herding, where people move their animals seasonally in search of pasture and water; and commercial grain farming, which focuses on producing large quantity of grains like wheat or corn for sale in global markets, often using highly mechanized methods. The cost of land, labor, and machinery shapes whether farming is conducted intensively or extensively. Intensive agriculture thrives in areas with limited land and high demand, while extensive agriculture is more common in regions with abundant, inexpensive land. Both systems reflect how economic forces influence the scale, methods, and types of agricultural practices around the world. So while the physical landscape impacts the type of agriculture, so do economic factors.